What's up? We've all heard about the benefits of using limited liability companies when it comes to real estate investing, but how about the downsides? Not a lot of people talk about it. In this video, I'm going to talk about the benefits and the downsides of using limited liability companies to own rental real estate. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what is the benefits? Because let's start with the good and then we'll cover the bad. Well, the first benefit of using a limited liability company is what I talk about all the time. It's asset protection. You see, when you place a rental property into a limited liability company, one of the main reasons people are doing that is so that if anything happens with that property, let's say a tenant injures themselves, or worse yet, a guest of a tenant injures themselves, then a lawsuit's coming. Now the question is, do you want that lawsuit to name you personally, or do you want it to name your business entity? Well, obviously, if I can keep lawsuits from hitting me individually, I'm all for that. And that's why I use LLCs to protect investment real estate. So that injured party will have to sue the LLC and they won't be coming after me personally. But that's only one side of it. The second side of asset protection in using LLCs for rental real estate is that your real estate is protected from your claims. I mean, how could that happen? Let's say your child is involved in a car accident driving your car. You sign a contract to enter into an agreement, but it just doesn't work out, so you try to walk away and you get sued. Whatever the case may be, lawsuits happen every day in this country. And the question is, are your assets protected from those potential personal creditors? Well, by using limited liability companies, you're taking an asset such as rental real estate, which is an investment, and you're putting it beyond the reach of your creditors. Now, of course, this assumes a number of things. A, you've set up your LLC operating agreement appropriately. Also, that it's in the right state that gives you these types of protections. So if somebody did get a judgment against you, they can't break your company. But if you've done everything right with your LLC setup, then it should protect your real estate from your personal creditors. Now, another aspect of using LLCs that I think is just awesome when it comes to owning investment real estate is that it adds another layer of credibility by having an LLC set up. I mean, let's face it, when you're dealing with third parties, if they know you have a business entity, they're going to assume that you've taken the time, which you have, to invest in yourself to create the right type of structure. Serious real estate investors do not own real estate in their own names. They are serious, so they're going to take those necessary steps. So if I'm out there and I'm talking to banks, or I'm talking to other individuals and I'm holding myself out as a limited liability company, I will be treated differently than if I'm just out there as an investor. So credibility, I think, is really important, and that's why you should set them up. Now, the next aspect about it is that when you have an LLC, it makes it really easy to bring in a partner. Now, you might be wondering, why would I ever bring a partner into my limited liability company? Well, I can think about this. Let's say you want to put a spouse onto your LLC because you bought a piece of property in your name, you used financing because you're trying to staying under that 10 cap limit that you have with Freddie Fannie financing. And now, since it's in an LLC, your spouse wants to go onto that LLC to be a joint owner with you. So what do? Well, it's really simple. All you have to do is transfer her ownership interest, or 50% of the ownership interest, or whatever you've decided in that limited liability company. Whereas if you didn't have an LLC set up, then what would occur is that you would have to bring on your spouse as a tenant in common to that particular property. Now that is going to cost you money because you're going to have to file a deed in order to do that, and it's going to be a public record. Whereas the transfer of the LLC interest, it's completely private. All it is what we refer to as an assignment. One piece of paper, and now you've brought somebody in. Which leads me to my fourth benefit of using limited liability companies, and that is estate planning. Listen, we don't know when our number's up. Hopefully it's going to be a very long time, but things unfortunately do happen during our lives that bring that much closer to reality than we would like. Now, when you own real estate in your own name and you pass that on through your estate and it's not properly protected, a number of problems can occur. I've seen it time and time again where people will leave property to their children, and 2 out of the 3 children, they see the benefit of owning rental real estate, but the third child, they just don't get it. Maybe their spouse wants them to sell the property. And you're probably wondering, well, how can one child who only owns a third of the interest sell the property? Well, what they can do is they can force a sale through an equitable partition action. So things like that, where you have challenges amongst beneficiaries who inherit your real estate, going through the probate process, having to retitle it into individuals' names, maybe who are being sued, all that creates problems and can devastate your wealth that you're leaving to future generations. By putting that in a limited liability company, you eliminate those problems. You got a child that doesn't want to own real estate and two do? Well, guess what? That one child cannot dictate to those other two. That property will stay in that LLC. You have a child that's going through a divorce or through a lawsuit and they inherit the property. No longer will they have an asset that a creditor can attach. Because it's in an LLC, the creditor won't be able to get after that asset or take their LLC interest. So from an estate planning standpoint, that is the best way to protect your real estate. All right, what are the negatives? Well, the first negative is going to be, of course, the cost and the time involved in setting up and maintaining limited liability companies, such as the filing fees, possibly a tax return, annual and state fees, and other costs that can come up in having that LLC. You know, opening a bank account, that's a cost in your time. So when you look at setting up the LLC, it's easy to see why some people will not create an entity and they'll just rely on insurance, which is a weak form of protection, to protect their rental real estate because of that perceived cost of having to go through that. Plus you have to file a deed to transfer the real estate into the limited liability company. So that's one major disadvantage for setting up an LLC for rental real estate. Now, a second disadvantage to having property in an LLC is going to be financing. So if you wanted to buy real estate and it's investment real estate, residential, and you want to get a loan, there's a lot of lenders out there. That's a no-go zone for them. They will not loan to your limited liability company because they underwrite these loans with Freddie Fannie guidelines, and you cannot loan to an LLC on residential real estate. Or maybe you transferred your property into a limited liability company. It's sitting inside of there, and now you want to refinance it. Oh, can't refinance it because the exact same reasons why they won't let you obtain a loan in the LLC is the reason why they won't let you refi. So now you have to unwind everything. So if you're going to finance property, that's one reason why a lot of people don't set up limited liability companies is because they say, hey, I can't get financing in it, so I'm not going to do it. Which brings me to my third point, potential problem with using limited liability companies, and that's going to be the due on sale clause in mortgages. You see, let's say you have a low interest rate loan on investment real estate, maybe it's sitting at 3.5%, and now we're at 7.5%, 8% for that same loan. Well, if you transfer that property into an LLC, lender discovers the fact that the property's been transferred, they may come knocking and say, hey, we want you to refinance this property at a higher interest rate, or we're going to initiate foreclosure action and take the property back from you because you violated the due on sale clause. I get it, that's scary. Now there are workarounds to it. We talk about them all the time, how you can get around this potential problem, but it's there and it's what discourages people from using LLCs. Other problems, property tax reassessment. So if you transfer real estate into an LLC, if you don't do it the right way, you could be paying a higher property tax on an annual basis. Or you could have issues where they impose excise taxes when you put your property into a limited liability company. Now, all of these things that I'm talking about, they can be avoided if you know what you're doing, but they are serious negatives that create problems for people, which then oftentimes makes them think, oh, I don't need an LLC for my property because I heard from this guy really screwed them up from a tax perspective or a transfer tax issue there. Don't worry about it. All that can be fixed. If you want to learn how to fix that, I'd like to invite you to my free tax and asset protection live event. Hey, there's a link down below in the show notes. Click on it, grab it, do whatever you need to do, but you should be there because I'm going to be teaching you all about how to use limited liability companies, how to use land trust to get past all those problems I just brought up in this video. And then we're going to show you how to come on the backside and put a ton more money back in your pocket by owning rental real estate and opening up your eyes to all of the tax benefits that are available to those of us who have decided to make this type of investment. Last thing I'd like to leave with you, if you like the video, smash the like button. If you're not yet a subscriber, well, you know what to do.